Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something, maybe deceptively simple, journaling.
Yeah.
But we're going to find out why this is such a powerful tool for really not only understanding yourself better, but also for boosting your mental well-being.
Exactly. And, whether you're a seasoned journaler or maybe you haven't even thought about journaling before,
Right.
our goal today is to go way beyond just the basics of journaling.
Yeah, our mission today is to take a deep dive into the real substance of journaling. We're going to uncover the science behind it. We're going to look at all the different ways it can actually benefit your life,
Yes.
the different techniques, and ultimately how it can be a real path to healing and growth.
Exactly. And we want to do this in a way that is comprehensive but not overwhelming.
Yeah.
We really want you to come away with some practical knowledge
Right.
and tools.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off by looking at, why is the act of writing itself so powerful?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to delve into the research, the science.
Mm-hmm.
What does it actually tell us about the impact of journaling on our minds and even our bodies? And then we'll move into different types of journaling techniques, the specific ways journaling can lead to healing, share some relatable stories
Okay.
to kind of illustrate the impact, and of course, give you some concrete steps on how to get started yourself.
All right, so let's unpack this a little bit. Why is the seemingly simple act of just writing down our thoughts and our feelings, why is that so impactful?
Well, I think one of the things that's so fascinating about writing is that it really forces you to slow down.
Yeah.
We live in such a, hyper-connected, fast-paced world, and writing gives you that dedicated space for reflection.
It really is like hitting the pause button
Yeah.
on that mental whirlwind.
Yeah, exactly.
And you start to see things a little bit differently when you do that.
Right. And it also gives you that structure,
Yeah.
which our thoughts, very often don't have. So it allows you to take those tangled emotions and put them in some kind of linear form.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself can bring a sense of clarity.
Right. It's like, you've got that knotted thread.
Yes.
And writing each sentence, each word is like slowly untangling that.
Exactly. And it's so important to remember that words aren't just for communicating with other people.
Mm-hmm.
They're also a way to understand ourselves.
Yeah.
They're a tool for understanding our own inner world.
And you don't have to be a professional writer or anything like that.
Right.
This is for you. This is private.
Yeah.
No one's grading you on this.
No.
And it's a really safe and non-judgmental space to just kind of be with whatever's going on inside.
Exactly. Honesty is really the only requirement.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and let's look at the research. Let's look at the science. What does science tell us about the link between journaling and our mental well-being?
Well, there's a growing body of research, and it's really fascinating. It really points to some significant benefits of expressive writing. So that's what it's often called in the research. And those benefits are not only mental, but also physical.
Wow.
So, for example, studies have shown that regularly writing about your thoughts and emotions can actually lead to a reduction in symptoms of depression and anxiety.
That's huge.
It is. And it goes beyond just mood. Research has also indicated improvements in immune function, lower stress levels, and even a better ability to cope with difficult life events.
Okay.
So, whether that's trauma, grief, or you're going through a big life transition.
No, and we're not talking about having to write novels here or, hours and hours a day.
Yeah,
Or,
no, not at all.
Yeah.
I remember reading some research about very small amounts of time.
yeah, you're probably thinking about the work of Dr. James Pennebaker.
Yeah.
He's really a pioneer in this field.
Mm-hmm.
And he's found that spending even just 15 to 20 minutes a few times a week
Wow.
writing about your emotional experiences can lead to measurable improvements in both mental and physical health.
And his studies, they often involve having participants write for, a set period of time about, specific emotional experiences. And then they compare them to control groups that are writing about neutral topics.
So what is it about writing that actually brings about these positive changes? What's the mechanism there?
So it's really multifaceted. But when you're writing, you're essentially organizing your experiences into a narrative.
Okay.
You're taking something that can feel very chaotic and shapeless, and you're giving it a structure. And this process actually engages both the emotional centers of the brain,
Okay.
allowing for expression,
Yeah.
but it also activates those more logical, analytical areas of the brain,
Interesting.
like the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in planning and decision-making.
Yeah.
So think of it as the emotional parts of your brain are sending out these signals, and writing helps the rational parts to receive, organize, and make sense of those signals.
So this almost like it makes the emotions more tangible.
Exactly. And it also allows you to reframe your experiences.
Oh.
When you're writing it down, you can often gain a new perspective, see patterns that you may not have noticed before, and even start to find meaning in difficult times.
Yeah.
So it really acts as this therapeutic tool.
So we've talked about why writing is so powerful, and we've talked about the science backing up the benefits for our mental health. But for someone listening who's saying, all right, I'm on board, but how do I actually do this?
Yes.
What are the different ways that I can approach journaling?
Well, that's a great question. And the good news is that there really is no right way.
Right.
It's all about finding what works best for you and your needs.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some of the different types of journaling. So one very popular and very accessible method is called free writing.
Okay.
Or stream of consciousness journaling. And this really involves just writing continuously whatever comes to mind without censoring yourself, without worrying about grammar, punctuation structure. Just let the words flow.
Just get it all out there.
Exactly, just like a mental release. You also have gratitude journaling, which is a really powerful way to intentionally shift your focus to the positive in your life. And this practice involves, regularly listing things that you're grateful for. And it might sound simple, but it can really have a profound impact on your well-being.
Right, because you're training your mind to look at the positive even when there are a lot of negative things going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
So you have prompt-based journaling, and this is really helpful if you're staring at a blank page and you don't know where to start. So these are specific questions or prompts designed to encourage you to reflect on certain themes or emotions or experiences. Then there's bullet journaling. And this is a more structured method that combines, to-do lists and planning with reflection.
So it's like an organizational tool with some personal reflection thrown in.
Exactly. It's very versatile.
Okay.
And it appeals to people who, like to have things very organized.
Right.
Then there's mood journaling.
Where you're tracking your feelings, on a regular basis, maybe daily, and you try to identify patterns or triggers that might be influencing your mood.
Okay.
There's goal journaling, which involves writing about your aspirations, the steps you're taking to achieve them, and any obstacles that you might encounter along the way. And then finally, there's shadow work journaling.
Shadow work.
Yes. And this is a more in-depth practice. That really focuses on exploring the unconscious parts of our personality. So those hidden emotions, fears, negative traits that we might often try to repress or deny.
Yeah.
And exploring these shadows can be very powerful for self-awareness and healing.
Okay, so it sounds like with all of these different methods, the key is really just to experiment.
Exactly.
And find what works for you.
Yes, find what resonates with you.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you have to stick to just one. You could blend them. You can create your own hybrid journaling practice that really fits your individual needs.
So we've talked about the different ways to journal. Now let's dive into how this practice actually contributes to healing.
Yes.
What are the mechanisms at play?
Yeah.
You mentioned before it can serve as an emotional release.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
So writing provides a safe and private outlet for expressing difficult emotions that you might not feel comfortable sharing with others.
Yeah.
Or sometimes even admitting to yourself.
Right.
So it's a way to process your grief, your anger, your frustrations, to get those emotions out of your head and onto the page. And when you do that, it can really lighten that mental and emotional load.
Right. It's like taking something that feels very internal, intangible, and giving it a form.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just the act of naming the emotion as you're writing about it can actually diminish its intensity.
Okay. And then you talked about clarity and insight. How does journaling help with that?
So by articulating your thoughts and feelings in writing, you start to understand the reasons behind them. You start to understand the triggers. Instead of just feeling anxious, you might realize, I'm feeling anxious because I have this presentation tomorrow. And, I'm afraid of public speaking, or I'm feeling sad because, I've connected with my friends in a while.
Right.
And you start to see connections between events and thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
It helps you understand those patterns.
Right. So you're taking that internal chaos and making it external.
Exactly. And then you can kind of analyze it and understand it better.
Yeah. And then you talked about how it can foster self-compassion. Tell me about that.
So when you journal regularly, you're essentially creating this ongoing dialogue with yourself.
Okay.
And this self-reflection can lead to a more gentle understanding and accepting inner voice.
Yeah.
You start to treat yourself with more kindness and less judgment. It's like becoming a more supportive listener to your own internal narrative.
It's like having that friend
Yes.
that you can always go to who's always there for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's a shift in perspective. That can happen through journaling.
Yeah.
You step back, you review your entries, and you can gain a broader view of challenging situations.
Right.
You can start to see potential solutions that you may have overlooked before.
Mm-hmm.
And realize that difficult feelings are often temporary. They're part of a process.
Yeah.
And this can be so helpful because when you're in the midst of a challenge,
Yeah.
it can feel very all-consuming.
Right.
But journaling gives you that distance
Yeah.
to see things more objectively.
Okay. And then you said journaling can also help with decision making.
Yes, because it helps to clear that mental clutter. You know, when your thoughts are swirling around in your mind, it can be hard to think clearly and make decisions. But journaling helps you organize those thoughts, prioritize your concerns, evaluate your options in a more logical way.
Yeah.
You can see the pros and cons more clearly, and it can help you identify that path forward that aligns with your values.
Right.
So journaling is not going to, magically eliminate pain, but it does give you those tools to navigate challenges with more clarity and wisdom.
So let's take a look at how all of this might play out in a real life situation. Now, we've created some fictional examples here, but they're based on real experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We wanted to illustrate how journaling can be transformative in different contexts.
Okay.
So let's start with Sarah. After Sarah's mother passed away, she found herself really overwhelmed by grief.
Okay.
And she decided to start writing letters to her mother in a journal every night.
Oh, wow.
And these letters weren't just about, mourning.
Mm-hmm.
They became this space for her to process her guilt, her sadness, her memories. And over time, she started to find peace and acceptance.
That's beautiful.
So that act of writing those letters became really crucial to her healing journey.
And it was something that she could do on her own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In her own time, in her own space.
Yeah. Okay, what about Kevin?
So Kevin had been struggling with anxiety,
Okay.
but he couldn't really pinpoint the triggers.
Right.
So he decided to start a daily journal where he would track his feelings.
Mm-hmm.
He would write down what he was doing, who he was with, and how he was feeling.
Okay.
And over time, these patterns started to emerge in his journal.
Right.
And he noticed that his anxiety was often linked to, caffeine intake,
Okay.
certain social situations, and not getting enough sleep.
Right.
So through this journaling practice, he gained this awareness.
Yeah.
That allowed him to make some lifestyle changes. That really reduced his anxiety.
Yeah.
So it became this very concrete
Yeah.
tool for change.
So it wasn't just about releasing the emotions, but actually learning and growing from it.
Exactly. And then we have Jasmine.
Okay.
So Jasmine had really struggled with low self-worth for years.
Okay.
And she decided to use a journal for daily affirmations
Okay.
and reflections that would challenge her inner critic. So she would write down positive statements about herself and question those negative thoughts that would come up. And after several months of this practice, she started to notice a real shift in her self-talk.
Great.
It became kind of more encouraging.
Yeah.
And this change started to affect her relationships and even her career.
So those are just 3 examples of how journaling can really lead to some profound changes.
Yes.
So for someone listening who's saying, all right, I'm inspired, I want to start journaling,
Yes.
what are some simple, actionable steps to get started?
Well, I think the key is to make it as easy and as accessible as possible. So first, choose a method that appeals to you.
Okay.
It could be pen and paper. It could be a digital app on your phone or tablet.
Right.
You can even use voice notes
Right.
if you prefer to speak your thoughts out loud.
So you don't need to go out and buy some fancy journal or anything.
No, not at all. Start with whatever you have
Okay.
and then establish a consistent time
Right.
for your journaling, even if it's just a few minutes every day.
Yeah.
Maybe it's first thing in the morning. Maybe it's right before bed or during your lunch break.
Okay. So consistency over quantity.
Exactly. Just start small.
Yeah.
Even 5 minutes can be really beneficial.
Yeah.
And let go of any pressure about the quality of your writing.
Right.
No one else is going to read this. So don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about your writing style.
Right.
Just be honest and authentic.
Yeah.
And your entries can be short or long.
Mm-hmm.
Some days you might just write one sentence.
Okay.
Other days you might write pages.
Right.
Just follow your intuition.
Yeah. Now let's be real. sometimes it can be hard to stick with a new habit.
Yes.
So what are some of the reasons why people resist journaling, and how do we overcome them?
So one of the biggest reasons is time.
Yeah.
People say, I just don't have the time.
Right.
So if that's you start incredibly small.
Yeah.
Commit to just 2 or 3 minutes each day.
Right.
And then another reason is that people say, well, I don't know what to write about.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
And that's where prompts can be really helpful.
Right.
Having a specific question or topic can really get you going.
Yeah, it gives you that starting point.
Exactly.
Right.
And then some people worry about privacy.
Mm-hmm.
What if someone reads my journal?
Yeah.
So if that's a concern, get a journal with a lock or use a digital app through his password protection.
Okay.
And then lastly, a lot of people say, well, it just feels awkward.
Right.
It feels uncomfortable to write about my feelings.
Yeah.
And that's totally normal.
Yeah.
And that feeling usually diminishes with practice.
So be patient.
Exactly.
Stick with it.
Yes. It's like any new skill.
Yeah.
It takes time to get comfortable.
Okay, so let's talk about some specific journal prompts that can help with healing and growth.
Yes. I've got a bunch here that I think will be really helpful. So one prompt to consider is, what emotion have I been avoiding lately and why?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it helps you bring awareness to those feelings that you might be pushing down.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is, what do I need more of in my life right now?
Is it rest? Is it connection? Is it creativity? It helps you identify your unmet needs.
Yeah. Okay, what else?
What does my inner child need to hear right now?
Ooh.
Yeah. This one can really tap into those deep-seated feelings and, maybe that need for comfort and reassurance.
Yeah.
What am I carrying that I can release today?
Oh, wow.
So, what are you holding on to?
Yeah.
That's no longer serving you.
Yeah.
Who do I need to forgive, including myself?
Mm-hmm.
This is about letting go of those past hurts and resentments.
Yeah.
What am I grateful for, even in this moment? Even amidst the challenges.
Yeah.
What are those little things that are good? And then finally, if a friend were feeling what I'm feeling, what would I say to them?
Ooh, that's a really powerful one.
Because we often are much more compassionate to others than we are to ourselves.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that.
So those are just a few to get you started.
Those are really good prompts.
Yeah, and you can find many more online or in books.
Yeah. I would encourage listeners to pause and write those down.
Yes.
Okay, so to wrap things up, what are some helpful tools and resources that you recommend?
Well, there are some great apps out there.
Okay.
Like Journey Day One, Reflectly. They offer user-friendly interfaces. They often have prompts, mood tracking, secure storage.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, if you prefer physical journals,
Yeah.
there's the 5-minute journal.
Right.
Your therapy journals, prompted notebooks,
Right.
tons of options.
Yeah, and any books that you recommend.
Yeah. So Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg is a classic.
Okay.
And it really emphasizes writing freely without self-judgment. The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's a bit more structured, but it's a great program for unlocking creativity.
Okay.
And then The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle is really good for those who are interested in mindfulness and journaling.
Awesome. So just a few more options for people to explore.
Exactly.
All right. So as we wrap up this deep dive on journaling, what's one final thought that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I would say, remember this. You are allowed to be both a work in progress and a masterpiece at the same time.
Ooh.
Journaling is not about fixing yourself. It's about understanding yourself
Yeah.
with more compassion and kindness.
Yeah.
It's about getting to know yourself deeply
Yeah.
in all of your, complexity,
Yeah.
your contradictions, your beauty.
I think that's a really powerful message
Yeah.
because a lot of times we get caught up in the idea that we need to be perfect.
Yes,
And journaling really helps us to accept ourselves.
exactly. And, think of your journal as that mirror
Mm-hmm.
that reflects your inner world,
Yeah.
a companion on your journey, a safe space to release your emotions,
Yeah.
and a source of clarity and insight.
And you don't need anything special to start. You've got everything you need.
Exactly.
You've got a pen, a piece of paper,
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts,
Yeah,
and your truth.
exactly.
So go for it. And if you found this deep dive helpful, please share it with others who might benefit.
Yes.
We're always looking for ways to help more people. We'd also love to hear your favorite journaling tips, techniques,
Yeah.
prompts,
Yes.
anything you want to share.
Mm-hmm.
Keep writing, keep healing, and keep growing. Thanks so much for joining us for the deep dive.
Thank you.